Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to explore one of the most dramatic periods in European history, a time when new ideas challenged old powers and ordinary people fought to reshape the world. Think of it as Europe's teenage years, full of rebellion, drama, and big dreams for the future. Now, think of the Congress of Vienna in 1815 as Europe's most exclusive dinner party, where powerful rulers gathered to hit the giant undo button on all the changes brought by the French Revolution and Napoleon. Led by Prince Metternich, Europe's strictest party planner, these leaders redrew the map of Europe and set up a system to prevent further revolutions, essentially creating an international anti revolution club that would last for decades. Let me take a moment to introduce you to Prince Metternich, an Austrian noble who became the chief minister of the Habsburg Empire and basically ran European politics from 1815 to 1848. Metternich believed that the old order of absolute monarchs, privileged nobles, and an established church was the only way to prevent chaos and revolution. He saw revolutionary ideas like democracy and nationalism as dangerous diseases that needed to be quarantined before they could spread and infect the established social order. Now, back to the Congress of Vienna. At this ultra conservative reunion, they established a plan called the Concert of Europe, which was basically an agreement between the major powers to work together to maintain stability and squash any revolutionary movements that might threaten their authority. Think of it as the world's first international neighborhood watch program, but for keeping democracy at bay. Now, enter our challengers, the liberals. They were mostly middle class folks like business owners, lawyers, and writers who had soaked up Enlightenment ideas about individual rights and rational government like sponges in an intellectual ocean. Deeply inspired by the French Revolution's dramatic shake of the old order, though not so much by its more violent episodes, they advocated for constitutional monarchies, where written laws would reign supreme and governments would protect basic rights like freedom of speech and religion, rather than just doing whatever the king felt like at breakfast. The other challenger to the conservative order was nationalism. This powerful force emerged from the perfect storm of the Enlightenment's emphasis on individual rights and the French Revolution's radical notion that people, not just kings, could decide how they wanted to be governed. Nationalism spread across Europe like a viral TikTok trend. And just as social media can bring both people together and create divisions, nationalism turned out to be a double edged sword. It unified some groups, like the Germans and the Italians, who wanted to create their own nations, while tearing apart multi ethnic empires like Austria Hungary. Imagine a group project where everyone suddenly decides to work on their own. The first victim of this new nationalism was the Ottoman Empire, which was seen by many in Eastern Europe as a foreign empire, since its culture and religion were more Middle Eastern. The Serbs struck first in 1814, channeling their shared Slavic culture and Christian faith into a successful fight for autonomy, getting a big assist from their cultural cousin Russia. The Greeks followed in 1821, and surprisingly, even the usually revolution hating European powers supported them, partly because everyone loved ancient Greek culture, and partly because weakening the Ottoman Empire served their own interests. While revolts against the Ottoman Empire showed how nationalism could break apart old empires from the edges, the next big drama would hit Europe right at its heart, in France. Now, after Napoleon's defeat in 1815, the victorious European powers put Louis XVII, brother of the executed Louis XVI, back on the French throne. When he died in 1814, his ultra conservative brother Charles X inherited the crown. The people of Paris said no merci to Charles's power grab, and they built barricades in the streets. Yes, just like in Les Mis. And within days, they had a new king, Louis Philippe, the citizen king. He tried to make his reign not too conservative and not too radical. Still, his attempts to keep everyone happy ultimately left everyone unsatisfied, especially when he favored the wealthy bourgeoisie's interests over the workers' needs. The Revolution of Paris inspired uprisings elsewhere in Europe. Metternich later said, "When France sneezes, Europe catches cold." The Belgian Revolution began in August of 1830 with riots in Brussels, initially triggered by economic hardship and cultural divisions between the Belgians and the Dutch. Following street battles and the evacuation of Dutch troops from Brussels, a provisional government declared Belgian independence on October 4th, 1830, leading to the establishment of a constitutional monarchy, with King Leopold I as the first king of the Belgians in July of 1831. And though the Dutch initially resisted through a military campaign known as the 10 Days Campaign, Belgium's independence was ultimately recognized by European powers through the 1839 Treaty of London and established Belgium as a neutral state. Now for a sadder story. Poland had already been through the historical equivalent of a hostile takeover, carved up between Russia, Austria, and Prussia in the late 1700s. In 1830, inspired by the successes in France, the November Uprising began on November 29, 1830, when Polish military cadets and officers in Warsaw launched a rebellion against Russian rule, initially failing to capture the Grand Duke Constantine, but successfully seizing the city's arsenal and gaining control over Warsaw. Despite early successes, including winning 35 of 45 major battles, Polish forces of 70,000 men were ultimately overwhelmed by Russia's 180,000 strong army. Think of these early 1800s revolutions as Europe's first attempts at democracy, like training wheels for freedom that helped people learn how to stand up to power. While most of these rebellions got crushed faster than a student council campaign promise, they taught entire generations that change was possible when people worked together. And speaking of working together, buckle up for our next video about 1848, when nearly all of Europe decided to revolt at the same time.